The young and the restless spoilers, the bold accusation. Sharon's desperate plan to frame Phyllis Sharon Newman finds herself in an impossible position. The murder of Heather looms over her life, and every shred of evidence points directly at her. Despite undergoing hypnosis to unlock her repressed memories, she has been unable to identify the real killer. The clock is ticking, and Sharon knows that unless she can shift the focus of the investigation, she will likely face prison time for a crime she insists she didn't commit. Faced with the mounting pressure, Sharon makes a dangerous and morally questionable decision: to frame Phyllis Summers for the murder. This audacious move sets the stage for a high-stakes battle of wits, trust, and survival in Genoa City. Sharon's frustration reaches its breaking point. Sharon's inability to recall the killer, despite extensive hypnosis sessions with Alan, has left her cornered. Her desperation grows as she watches those around her, Nick, Chance, and others, grapple with doubts about her innocence. While many want to believe her, the evidence against her is overwhelming. In a moment of panic, Sharon comes to a chilling conclusion: if she cannot prove her innocence, she must divert the blame to someone else. Phyllis, with her fiery personality and often contentious relationships, becomes the target of Sharon's scheme. The plan to frame Phyllis Sharon crafts a narrative that places Phyllis at the crime scene. Using the fragmented memories from her hypnosis sessions, Sharon weaves a story where she claims to have seen Phyllis striking Heather on the head in a moment of rage. It's a risky move. Phyllis and Heather were known to have a positive relationship, with no apparent motive for Phyllis to harm her. To bolster her claims, Sharon turns to Alan, the therapist who conducted her hypnosis sessions. She pressures Alan to validate her memory in front of Nick, Chance, and the authorities. Sharon knows that Alan's professional reputation and perceived neutrality make him a crucial piece in legitimizing her accusation. The role of Alan finds himself in an ethical dilemma. Sharon appeals to his sense of loyalty, convincing him that she is innocent and that framing Phyllis is the only way to ensure justice. Whether Alan genuinely believes Sharon's story or succumbs to her manipulation remains unclear. What is certain, however, is that his testimony will carry significant weight in swaying public opinion and the investigation. If Alan agrees to support Sharon, his credibility could make or break her case. But if he refuses, Sharon's plan could unravel before it even begins. Nick and Chance's doubts. Sharon's accusation sends shockwaves through Genoa City, particularly to Nick Newman and Chance Chancellor. Both men are deeply conflicted. On one hand, they want to believe Sharon, someone they care for and respect. On the other, the claim that Phyllis is the murderer seems far-fetched. Nick's perspective: as someone who has a complicated history with both Sharon and Phyllis, Nick is torn. While he knows Sharon is under immense pressure, he finds it hard to believe that Phyllis, a woman fiercely protective of her loved ones, could kill Heather, who shared a positive relationship with her son, Daniel. Nick begins to question whether Sharon's hypnosis-induced memory is reliable or a desperate attempt to save herself. Chance's perspective: as a detective, Chance is bound by his duty to follow the evidence. While Sharon's accusation provides a new lead, Chance is skeptical of its validity. Phyllis has no apparent motive, and the logistics of her involvement don't add up. Still, he must consider every possibility, even if it means investigating someone as unlikely as Phyllis. Phyllis's reaction when the accusation reaches Phyllis: her fury is unmatched. Known for her fiery temperament and quick wit, Phyllis refuses to let Sharon's claim go unchallenged. She confronts Sharon directly, accusing her of concocting the story to save herself. "Do you really think anyone's going to believe this?" Phyllis snaps. "You're desperate, Sharon, and it shows. Everyone knows I had no reason to hurt Heather. But you? You've got your fingerprints all over this mess." Phyllis's relationship with Nick and Daniel becomes a central point of her defense. Both men step forward to vouch for her character, emphasizing her lack of motive and long-standing bond with Heather. The investigation shifts. Sharon's accusation forces Chance to re-examine the evidence. While he remains doubtful of Phyllis's involvement, he is obligated to follow up on Sharon's claims. Interviews are conducted, timelines are reviewed, and Phyllis's movements on the night of Heather's murder are scrutinized. Meanwhile, Sharon grows increasingly anxious, knowing that any misstep could expose her deceit. Alan's role in the investigation becomes critical. If he supports Sharon's claims, it could create enough doubt to shift suspicion away from her. However, if his testimony falters or is proven unreliable, Sharon's credibility and her entire plan will collapse. The consequences of Sharon's actions: if Sharon's plan succeeds, she might escape conviction, but at a steep cost: damaged relationships. Sharon's relationship with Nick, Chance, and others will be irreparably damaged if her manipulation comes to light. Even those who believe in her innocence will struggle to reconcile her actions with their perception of her character. Legal repercussions: if the truth about Sharon's fabrication is discovered, she could face additional charges for obstruction of justice or perjury. Her attempt to save herself could ultimately worsen her situation. Moral consequences: Sharon's decision to frame an innocent person speaks to her desperation, but it also reveals a darker side of her character. Whether she can live with the guilt of her actions remains an open question. The road ahead: Sharon's decision to accuse Phyllis is a gamble with high stakes. Whether it succeeds or backfires, the fallout will be felt across Genoa City. As Nick, Chance, and Alan grapple with the implications of her claim, the question remains: will the real killer be found, or will Sharon's web of lies become the focus of the investigation? In the end, Sharon's bold move might buy her time, but the cost of her actions could haunt her forever. The war between Phyllis and Sharon, a battle of truth and betrayal. Genoa City is no stranger to drama, but the escalating war between Phyllis Summers and Sharon Newman has reached explosive new heights. Sharon's desperate attempt to frame Phyllis for Heather's murder has ignited a battle that pulls in allies, divides loyalties, and sets the stage for a clash of wills that could destroy both women or leave one standing victorious. Phyllis's outrage, fighting to prove her innocence. Phyllis is no stranger to accusations, but being framed as a murderer by Sharon is an insult she refuses to let slide. Known for her fiery temper and unyielding determination, Phyllis immediately goes on the offensive. Her first priority is to clear her name and expose Sharon's lie for what it is: a desperate, baseless attempt to escape justice. "This is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard," Phyllis fumes to Lauren Fenmore, her loyal friend and confidant. "Sharon has lost her mind if she thinks anyone's going to believe this nonsense. But I'm not just going to clear my name, I'm going to make sure she pays for this." Lauren, always ready to support her friend, agrees. Together, they begin building a case to prove Phyllis's innocence and expose Sharon's deceit. Sharon's defense, allies and hypnosis. On the other side, Sharon clings to her hypnosis sessions as the foundation of her claim. Nick Newman and Chance Chancellor, both deeply conflicted but wanting to believe in Sharon's innocence, provide her with critical support. Michael Baldwin, as her legal advisor, lends her the credibility she desperately needs. Sharon's memories came from the hypnosis, Nick argues to Phyllis during a tense confrontation. "You've done things in the past, Phyllis. People will believe it's possible." Chance, though skeptical, knows the power of perception in legal battles. "We have to consider the possibility that Sharon is telling the truth, or at least believes she is," he tells his colleagues. But Phyllis isn't intimidated. "They're fools if they think they can pin this on me. I won't just fight back, I'll win." Lauren and Phyllis's counterattack. Phyllis and Lauren begin a calculated counterattack. They dig into Sharon's recent history, looking for inconsistencies in her story. With Lauren's sharp instincts and Phyllis's resourcefulness, they uncover details that cast doubt on Sharon's reliability: a questionable memory. They question the validity of Sharon's hypnosis-induced memory. If her recollections are fragmented and unclear, how can she confidently identify Phyllis as the killer? Motives and means. Phyllis highlights her lack of motive to harm Heather. As the mother of Daniel, who shared a positive relationship with Heather, Phyllis argues that she had no reason to kill her. Sharon's desperation. Phyllis and Lauren paint Sharon as a desperate woman willing to do anything to avoid prison, including fabricating a memory to frame an innocent person. Phyllis also considers leveraging her past relationships with Nick and Michael. While they currently support Sharon, Phyllis knows how to manipulate situations to her advantage. Her history may not be clean, but she's a master at turning the narrative in her favor. Daniel's fury, a son's vow for revenge. Daniel Romalotti, Phyllis's son, is enraged by Sharon's accusation. Heather's death was a tragedy, and the thought of Sharon using it to frame his mother pushes him to the brink. Known for his typically calm demeanor, Daniel now burns with a need for justice, not just for his mother but for Heather as well. "This is too far," Daniel tells his mother. "She's crossed a line, and I won't let her get away with it. I'll make her regret this." Daniel's vow adds another layer of intensity to the battle. With his deep connections in Genoa City, he begins investigating Sharon's claims independently, looking for any crack in her story that he can exploit. His relationship with Nick also becomes strained, as Daniel struggles to understand how Nick could support Sharon in such a blatant act of deceit. The divide among allies. The fight between Sharon and Phyllis creates ripple effects among their allies. Nick's conflict. Nick is torn between his loyalty to Sharon and his lingering history with Phyllis. While he wants to believe Sharon, Phyllis's past actions and her unrelenting defense leave him questioning whether Sharon's story holds water. Chance's doubts. As a detective, Chance feels obligated to follow the evidence, but he can't ignore the growing suspicions about Sharon's motives. Phyllis's arguments force him to take a closer look at Sharon's claims. Michael's role. Michael Baldwin, though an ally to Sharon, begins to feel the strain of defending her. The lack of concrete evidence to support her accusation weighs heavily on him, and his own moral compass is tested. Phyllis's next move. Turning the tide. Phyllis decides to take a bold step to prove her innocence and dismantle Sharon's credibility. She considers the following strategies: expose Sharon's lies publicly. Phyllis plans to use the media to sway public opinion in her favor. By highlighting Sharon's desperation and the questionable nature of her claims, Phyllis hopes to win over key players in Genoa City. Uncover new evidence. With Lauren's help, Phyllis digs into Heather's murder, searching for any clue that could exonerate her and point to the real killer. If they can disprove Sharon's memory, the case against Phyllis will crumble. Leverage relationships. Phyllis uses her history with Nick and Michael to sow doubt about Sharon's motives. She appeals to their sense of logic, emphasizing how improbable it is that she would harm Heather. The war's outcome. Who will prevail? The fight between Phyllis and Sharon has become more than just a legal battle. It's a personal war with deep emotional stakes. Sharon's attempt to frame Phyllis has pushed both women to their limits, forcing them to confront their darkest instincts and vulnerabilities. If Phyllis wins, Sharon's credibility will be destroyed, leaving her isolated and vulnerable to prosecution. The fallout could irreparably damage her relationships with Nick, Michael, and Chance. If Sharon wins, Phyllis will face prison time for a crime she didn't commit, and her reputation in Genoa City will be tarnished forever. But Sharon will live with the guilt of her actions, and the possibility that the real killer remains free.